Hello and welcome back to Nick to the X. Welcome to X-Men. Back to X-Men Classic. This is episode number 5, and in this episode we're doing something a little bit different than we did in the previous 4 episodes. We're actually going to look over 2 issues of the series of Uncanny X-Men. We're first going to look over issue number 5. The reason why we're going over 2 issues, I'm going to explain why. Because issue 5 feels like it's a filler issue of this particular saga. And it's called Trapped, One X-Men, featuring the return of the evil mutants. And here's basically a group shot of basically the 5 heroes. And by the way, the lineup itself does not change until until much later when the lineup changes, in case you're wondering. Basically, Xavier has been sort of mentally wounded in a way, so they have to basically stay at home for most of the issue. You have, and of course, everybody's like relaxing for it, trying to figure out what to do. And then all of a sudden, Beast looks out the window. Oh, Jean Grey's parents just showed up. Yes, I am not kidding about this. They actually show up in this issue, making this the first parents of any of the members of the X-Men to actually show up in the series. So they didn't want to see them in their X-Men uniform, so they just switched to the civilian uniform. And pretty much they act as polite as they can. Cyclops is acting as most polite as he can too, because he didn't want to remove his sunglasses because, well, even though this is something that some people like fucking like sunglasses. Why is he wearing sunglasses? Why isn't he wearing ruby sunglasses? Well, that's how Jack Kirby drew him back in the 60s. And this book was released in May 1964. That's when this issue was released. Yeah, and then all of a sudden, basically, it's like Scott gets accidentally left in the danger room. That's what it's called, danger room. It doesn't show up initially to like issue 2 or 3, and then it cuts over to Mastermind, who just walking around, and then he has Quicksilver picking up, and this is something I do like about this issue. It's the first appearance of Asteroid M. Yes, this is Asteroid M. The first really known major base operations for Magneto, and you gotta love the interiors drawn by Jack the King Kirby. And like I said, there's no real change in the creative team for this one. Yeah, and then they prance about. Basically, Toad's acting stupid. He gets him tied up, and then Magneto just tells him to knock it off. And basically, it just standard fare. I mean, this is almost like a do-nothing issue. That's what it seems like, a do-nothing issue. And despite the fact this is sort of a filler issue in this particular saga, it is basically the only kind of development you get a chance to see is the first appearance of Asteroid M. And Toad poses as a runner, making some kind of mutants, and of course they have a brief scuffle with the Brotherhood. Who knew this would happen again? Go figure. And the X-Men sort of break into Asteroid M, and they have a brief fight on the actual asteroid, and the fight is basically predictable. The X-Men win, and they go back to Earth, and that's it for that issue. Overall, issue 5, like I said, it's a filler issue. Basically, it's an issue where the X-Men do nothing but just act really nice and have a brief scuffle with the Brotherhood of E-Mutants. Yeah, it's like a typical standard fare. It's not as basically disappointing as issue 2. It's a bit better than issue 2, definitely, but it's one of the more lower issues of the series. Now, here's the reason why that I had to include the second issue part. I had to include the next issue part of this. Because in issue 6, we have a guest star appearance by Namor the Submariner. Yes, the Golden Age superhero. Here in issue 4. And basically, it starts off with the X-Men just, well, having some dessert. Looked like they probably had a meal. Everybody's still dressed in suits. Of course, it's the 60s. They gotta do this. You can't wear t-shirt and shorts. This is, yeah, like I said, it's 60s. And basically, now this is the first time that Namor has ever met the X-Men. Now, as for any first, mainly it's just the first meeting between the X-Men and Submariner. That's really the whole point of this issue. And you have Magneto acting very mysterious. He wants, and of course he's mad at, of course, the Brotherhood doing the usual shenanigans of fighting each other. This happens like a third issue in a row, and this happen, and then looking at this only happens for like a couple pages, so like several pages of this. Then they all stop, and then Magneto always leave the room they're in. Now, as far as I can tell, they're still on Asteroid M. That's as far as I can tell for this one. They of course, the X-Men do some training in Danger Room, and then Xavier goes to astral projection as well, just like Magneto. And Magneto happens to run into Namor. Now, Namor, there is a reference in here to basically, from his point of view, this is after Fantastic Four number 27. And no, this is not Fantastic Four Volume 3 number 27. It's Volume 1, the one that Stanley Jack Kirby did at the same time this issue was coming out. And this really is a really well-written issue. I mean, Namor is written so well in this issue, written completely in character. And then Magneto shows up, and this one advisor of his, he's like, he turns around, he says, he thought he feels someone behind him. He says, who? What are you? And Magneto says, I am Magneto. That's all you need to know. I am here to give you power beyond your wildest dreams. Great panel. Great panel by Jack the King Kirby. And they have a conversation, and basically, somehow he convinces one advisor to sort of talk to Namor to form an alliance with him. Excuse me. And then Xavier just, well, he just brings up basically what we've been knowing for the last 3 years. Stealing a ship, a magnet thing, some birds, and of course, and one of the parts of Magneto's plan to form an alliance with Namor is one of the most bizarre things I have ever seen. Basically, Magneto pimps out his own daughter to the Submariner. I am not kidding about this. This is what he really does. He pimps her out to Magneto. That's what I call it, and a lot of people call it too. Yeah, he's pimping out to Magneto. She's pimping him out. Magneto's pimping out his own daughter to the Submariner. And she sort of kind of falls in love with him for some strange reason. Despite the fact that there really is much attraction between the two. Like, oh, she's a hot woman, so let's just have her try to have her sleep with Namor, even though he actually gets married twice. And of course, the Angel shows up, and they have a brief fight. Angel fights Namor for the first time, and throws him off. Then destroy this. The X-Men show up on this island. X-Men, and once again, the X-Men are fighting the Brotherhood again. And this issue kind of shows some signs, basically, of... This is basically kind of like the first step, in a way, of later on, of Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch going to turn on Magneto. Eventually, this is the first step. When the X-Men are fighting Namor, which is a really good fight between him and Beast. And... And basically, Xavier reveals to the Submariner that apparently him, Quicksilver, and Scarlet Witch are in fact pawns. And this upsets Namor. He's like, pawns? Who dares call the Submariner a pawn? Protect yourselves, X-Men. We'll see if each of us are the pawns. And Scarlet Witch is telling him not to throw the rock at him because she wants Quicksilver released from Xavier's mental control. Yeah, he's basically under mental control. And he does get released, and of course he throws the rock at something else. He goes away, and of course Namor just goes back to... He destroys the device, that that the whole issue is about this little magnet thing, and he goes back to the ocean, and as far as I know, he does later on come back in the series, but not for a few years. And then the issue ends basically with them on the island just trying to get off. And of course, we have a great pinup of Cyclops done by Jack the King Kirby. Okay. And that's it for those two issues. Overall, issue 6 was a lot better than issue number 5. It's almost kind of strange, though, at times, basically, where it's kind of like the way it was in Star Trek movies, where the odd numbers are bad and the even numbers are good. Not much in the case of the X-Men. Sometimes, I mean, you've had 2 issues that are kind of bad in some way. I mean, this issue, the issue 5 was kind of like basically kind of like a do nothing issue. It's very much filler. The only thing interesting about the issue was the debut of Asteroid M. That's really, I mean, most of the issue was predictable. I mean, most of it was basically you have a fight between the Brotherhood and the X-Men, which happens toward the end of the book. Same thing happened in the previous issue. Magneto really has no plot in issue number 5. Not at all. That's the problem with issue 5. Magneto has nothing to do in issue 5 at all. He just dealing with his troubles and worries. Basically, he plans to use Asteroid for something. He doesn't exactly reveal what it is. And that's really much it when it comes to issue 5. Issue 6 is a definite improvement. And my quite possible opinion, one of Stan Lee's best issues. Bringing the Submariner, a character who is barely associated with the X-Men even today, even though he did briefly, he was a member of the X-Men for about, I'd say, 4 years maybe? Yeah, about 3 or 4 years he was a member of the X-Men. But great issue featuring Submariner. And Stan Lee writes Submariner, who basically he's written completely in character of how he was written back in the 60s. And of how he was written at this point. And it was a great idea to bring him into the series, and he's probably the first outside character to show up in the series so far, 6 issues in. And issue 6 feels like a better issue, part of the Brotherhood saga than issue 5. 5 definitely is part of it, but it's a filler issue. It's just a filler issue. 5 is filler, 6 is basically the next chapter in a way. So, of the 2 issues, I give issue 5 a 7 out of 10. I want to be fair to it. It's still got. I'll give it a 7.5 simply because of Asteroid M. That's simply the way I give that issue. Issue 6, however, I give this issue a 9 out of 10. Both really good issues. Artistically wise, I mean, both these issues have got great artwork to them. It's just that issue 6 is more going on with it than issue number 5. I mean, debut of Jean Grey's parents. Debut of Jean Grey's parents, and that's okay. But the best thing about the issue was Asteroid M and the artwork. That's my opinion when it comes to issue 5. Issue 6, a lot of great action. I'll do a little Magneto's plan to magnetism. So, great issue. I highly recommend these. Well, I do recommend reading these issues, definitely. Alright, that's it for this episode. Stay tuned for episode number 6, where I review the next issue of the series, which will be issue number 6. Not issue 6, issue 7. It'll be episode 6, but we're reviewing issue 7, which features the return of somebody who we have not been seen since issue number 3. I will review who it is in the very next episode. So until then, see you there. Bye.